The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome. The Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has you covered. So grab your coffee, your energy drink, your green juice, whatever gets you rolling, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed. We are your host. I'm Dan Sipe, and I am joined by the indomitable Katelyn Murray.
Hello, hello. You know, we might consider changing that intro to 15 minutes or more because I don't know that we've ever come in under 15.
One time. I think one time.
Oh, yeah?
We actually kind of did, yeah.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Well, Dan, I see you are dressed in black yet again this week. Do we want to talk about the new levels of government shutdown bickering?
Briefly, but I want to be clear, folks. Both sides. This is not the way to do things. Okay? Shutting down the government, using the appropriation process to fund the government is not part of a legislative negotiation process. It's just not. I know it's been used that way, and everybody's used to it now. Mm-hmm. But the problem is the stakes keep getting raised. So now the latest from the administration is that non-essential agencies will proceed with RIFs. So instead of just being furloughed, people may come to find out they don't have jobs anymore. But they won't do that if there's not a furlough. So stop it. Both sides pass a clean bill and then fight it out. I'm not saying there aren't things that need to be addressed. But doing it this way is just not the way to do it. It's not. And it never has been. And nobody ever drew it up this way. And I think if you sat down on either side and you said to yourself, let's draw up the best way to get things done, this wouldn't even be in the top 100. So pretty pleased with sugar on top. Let's get a clean bill, even if it goes through November, and then work in good faith. Nobody's going to get everything they want to get a budget going. So that's my rant.
Well, on the kind of federal news side, some interesting pieces that are kind of coming out this week. We have a really, really cool article on FIRE, the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early, and feds. So you may not think that FIRE is something that relates to feds, but there's some interesting kind of perspectives in this article that we want to be sure to share. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. And then Dan is going to talk with us about navigating federal ethics rules for entrepreneurs. So if you are a federal employee and you are looking to kind of start up a business, what are some of the ethics and process-oriented things that you need to be thinking about? So we'll have a little bit on the ethics side. We'll have a little bit on the practical side. And then we'll talk about, lastly, staying compliant while you are building that business. So
Katelyn, tell us about financial independence and retire early, FIRE.
Yes. So the FIRE movement, it was really big a couple years ago. It's still somewhat big on some of the social media sites, your Instagram, your TikTok. But essentially, FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And really the goal of people who kind of claim this ethos or this approach to their financial planning and retirement planning, the goal is to achieve financial independence much earlier than traditional retirement timelines. And there are increasing numbers of feds who are exploring how their government benefits could potentially support their FIRE goals. Now, I want to be clear that when we talk about early, it's a relative measure, right? For some people in the FIRE movement, I have seen this. For some people in the FIRE movement, like mid-30s is early, right? Which is wild. The concept of being retired in your mid-30s is wild.
Are they starting a game changer company?
Yeah. As a Fed, mid-40s retirement with a pension just isn't possible, right? But
Sure.
There could be a different definition of early, right? Feds could potentially, if they plan correctly for it, exit full-time work in their 50s with steady income and health coverage. So let's talk about how to do that. So federal benefits can actually support early retirement. These are some of the levers that you need to think about, switching if you're somebody who is somewhat intrigued by the FIRE movement. TSP. Your TSP is going to offer you low fees. It's going to offer you a really good savings rate. So with a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, this is one of the things that I advocate for with the Financial Planning Association so hard. In an IRA or a Roth IRA, you can only put away $7,000 a year if you're under 50. When you reach your 50th birthday, you can then put away $8,000 a year. Compare that to a qualified employer plan like a TSP or a 401k. You could put $23,500 in a TSP every year if you were under age 50. And when you turn 50, you can put $31,000 in that TSP. Now, the comparison there is just absolutely unreal, right? You're saving, 3 times what you can save over 50 when you're under 50 in a TSP. So as a savings tool, in my opinion, unparalleled when it comes to retirement savings. You also get a government match in that TSP up to 5%. So definitely want to make sure that you're leveraging your TSP and the rest of your investment portfolio. Because remember, you can have a TSP and an IRA and a Roth IRA and a brokerage account. So definitely make sure that you're making the most of your investment portfolio if you're looking at going out on the earlier side. Now, your FERS pension as a Fed, that is going to give you something very, very, very unique. That's going to give you guaranteed income in retirement, backed by, when I say guaranteed, I mean backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. We've talked about it before on this show. On the private sector side, pensions have by and large sort of gone the way of the past. More and more of the onus of saving for retirement has been placed on the individual, meaning private sector pensions are very rare these days. As a Fed, you do have that guaranteed fixed income stream. Now, it's probably not going to cover all of your expenses. That's why you need to make sure that you're leveraging your investment portfolio. You also have, and I'll make mention, Social Security. Social Security is a later addition, though. Remember, we're talking about FIRE, retiring early. Social Security is not going to be there for you from the jump, but it does factor in later on. And lastly, one of the major benefits as a Fed, I've made no bones about it. I think it's one of the most important benefits that you have as a Fed, your FEHB coverage, your health insurance. As a retiree, being able to continue your FEHB coverage prevents very costly private insurance needs before Medicare. And you can keep it, of course, as a dual insurance with Medicare after age 65. So those are kind of the step ups or the leg ups that Feds have when it comes to retirement planning that you really want to be mindful if you're looking at an early retirement.
Sure.
Now, ideas on how you can potentially optimize your TSP for retiring early. The first thing I'll say, and my little disclaimer that I'll give you is, people always want to know how much money should I save for retirement? The answer is, how much do you want to spend in retirement, right? Not everybody who's retiring early wants to spend a ton of money in retirement. By that same token, if you don't know what you're likely to be spending in retirement, your aim could be a bit off when you're trying to fund things. So ideas on how to optimize TSP for FIRE. You want to make sure you're contributing at least 5% each pay period to get your full employer match. If you're not, you're leaving money on the table. That's baseline. Really, if you're looking at leaving early, you need to be maxing out that TSP. You need to be putting in that $23,500. And if and when you're eligible for it, you want to make sure that you're adding your catch-up contributions of $7,500 as of 2025 for age 50 and up. Spread your contributions out evenly throughout the year. A lot of people don't realize this. We talk about this all the time. If you say, okay, Katelyn, I'm really jazzed about retiring early. I've read a bunch of articles on FIRE. I'm going to increase my TSP contribution to 85%. If you max that thing out early, let's say you're maxed by April or May, there goes your employer match for the rest of the year. You have to have a TSP contribution going in on each paycheck in order to get your employer match. So you want to make sure that you're maxing out, but that you're spreading it throughout the year. That's also going to give you a more stable cash flow throughout the year. You want to make sure that you've got it properly allocated, because saving a bunch of money to TSP and putting it all in the G fund is not going to get you the equity appreciation and the potential growth factor that you need. You're not meeting the risk capacity for retiring early. All right. Consider using those catch-up contributions after age 50 to accelerate your savings, and consider Roth versus traditional. It's different for everybody. We're not going to get too far into it today, but Roth, money going in and going in after tax, growing tax-free in retirement. That's different than pre-tax, money going in on a pre-tax basis, lowering your taxable income for this year, but when you pull it out, you're being taxed as income. So figuring out the right mix there for you. One thing to be aware of with that, your employer match is always going to go in on a pre-tax basis. Looking at timing your benefits for maximum impact, this is where we're talking about that early word being subjective, okay? For most feds, your minimum retirement age is going to be age 57, and you're going to need 30 years of service to get there. So if you started as a fed at age 27, you work till 57, you've got your 30 years, you've got your MRA, your minimum retirement age, you are good to go. For most feds, we're not going to be much younger than 57 in order to retire early. But here's the thing. People are routinely living into their 90s. Medical science has gotten much better over the past 50 years. And guess what? It's going to keep getting better. So 57 really is early. So, don't
Katelyn,
get discouraged.
I know people who are approaching 70 that are vital.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them's on this podcast. I have a really good skincare routine. So just kind of keep in mind, it's going to be right around age 57, right? Keep in mind another thing. If you're looking at going out at that age, rule of 55 on your TSP. Most of the time, qualified retirement accounts you can access until at least 59 and a half. With your TSP, you can access it as early as 55 if you are working at least through age 55, okay? That doesn't mean the TSP is the best place to house those assets, all of your retirement assets. What it means is it's a liquidity window, and you can use it as such. So lastly, looking at some of the budgeting constraints with the FIRE principle here. In general, you're looking at lowering living costs to stretch your savings longer, okay? Key strategies include paying down debt, reducing your housing costs, and limiting your recurring expenses. I would add avoiding lifestyle creep to that. But I have seen this taken too far, right? I have seen people that are like crazy, what was that cheapskate show that they used to have where people are like reusing paper towels, right? That is bordering, like, if I may lean into my financial psychology background for a minute, like that's bordering a problem. You don't want to go that extreme, and you don't need to go that extreme. That's the good news. A little bit at a time will get you there. You want to make sure that you are looking at potential extra income. A lot of times when it comes to FIRE, I'm an advocate of moderation in most things. And what I would say is, if you're shooting for retiring early, if you're looking at being out the door at 57, consider some sort of part-time job for part-time income. Again, you're going to have to manage that around the FERS supplement, but consider kind of a second career. Consider a part-time career that's like the low-stress job. I've talked about it on the podcast before. The cheese counter at Wegmans. Everybody loves cheese. Everybody's happy when you're handing out free cheese. A bookstore with a cat. Right? Low stress, low stakes environment where you're still making a little bit of money. Maybe you're getting health insurance too, but you're not, you're not in a situation where it's super, super, super high stress. I think a lot of people in the FIRE movement underrate what so many of our feds do so beautifully, which is kind of work the federal career, have the go-getter job, and then downshift gradually to a less stressful job, and then fully retire later into their 60s and 70s. So for more information on the FIRE movement and how you can tap into that sort of energy as a Fed, if you're curious about that, hit our blog, stwserve.com, and search FIRE. You will find that article. Now, Dan, you're going to talk to us about another group of crazy people, entrepreneurs.
I resemble that remark. Yes, because, Katelyn, one of my favorite orgs ever was Furlough Cheesecake. So Nikki and Jackie, if you go back, you'll see a podcast that we did with them. They were furloughed during the big furlough that went on over a month and started a company. They make great cheesecake. And I think they've renamed and they're down in Atlanta and it's still great. But it was an opportunity wrapped in adversity. So something to think about with what's taking place in government right now. Here's the thing, though. There's some rules you need to follow. Federal ethics laws, Title 18, sections 201 through 209, standards of ethical conduct. So out of the gate, some of these are pretty easy. They prohibit bribery. Don't do that. That's bad. Conflict of interest, using position for private gain. You can't use inside information from the government job and start a business that competes with those federal duties. A couple of key rules. Get written permission before any outside work or business, because a lot of people will start this while they're still working. So you need to be very, very careful, but just follow the rules. Avoid real or apparent conflicts of interest. Check your agency's specific rules. And when in doubt, consult your agency ethics officer so that you avoid career or legal risks. Now, next, you want to choose the right business structure, because one of the things that's going to be a surprise is there are more expenses and there are more taxes associated with starting your business. So how you set it up is going to make a pretty big difference. So you could be a sole proprietorship. That's easy. Just one person, no liability protection, but your personal assets are at risk. Partnership. You got another person helping you with it. And two people can pull the sled easier. However, each partner is liable for all the obligations. LLC is a partnership that's kind of taxed like a corporation and has some protection around it. So there's liability protection, flexible management, but ethics conflicts still apply, even though it's technically an artificial person. And corporations, strong liability protection, possible tax advantages, but there can be some complex setup there. Regardless of structure, though, once again, confirm ethics compliance and obtain clearance with ethics officials. So there are certain post-government employment restrictions. The first was pretty obvious. If you're under this, you know it, a lifetime ban. I don't think I need to explain that. You can't do nothing ever. 2-year ban may be prohibited for working on matters under your official responsibility during your last 2 years of service for 2 years. A 1-year cooling off. We see this a lot. Senior officials restricted from contracting with their former agencies. If the business involves government contracts or agency, plan succession or transition before leaving federal service. So practical steps here. This is really a measure twice, cut once type of situation. So research and plan. Okay. Know what your target audience is, know your competitors, know your pricing, financial projections, have all that set up in advance. You don't want to be figuring that out as you go. Make sure you obtain your state and local licenses. And again, it sounds like a broken record, ensure compliance with your agency ethic rules. If you're still working, keep your federal duties and business activities separate. Don't use government resources. Don't use government time. Stay transparent. Follow those agency approval processes, disclose potential conflicts, keep ethics officials updated, and tax compliance. Okay. Everybody wants a side hustle. Do not get in trouble with the IRS on this. Report all self-employment income over, I'm going to hear people screaming all over the DMV for this, $400. The IRS, yes, report. It's better in the long run. Okay. So, and how to stay compliant while you're building that business. So early and ongoing ethics guidance, again, broken record, to agency rules and federal law while you're still working. Again, be transparent. And these steps will help protect your federal career and public trust while you're growing that business. And believe me, it is a divine madness when you join the ranks of what I like to call the gainfully unemployed. Because now I've been doing it so long, it's close to 40 years. I don't get sweats when I apply for a loan now for things, because it's like, where are you employed? See, I'm self-employed. Well, they look at almost 40 years of it. It's like, yeah, you might be good at this.
Yeah, you might be all right.
Yeah. So you get used to it, but fair warning, it can ruin you for all of the types of employment. So if you get out there for a while, I'm completely unemployable now. Nobody should ever consider hiring me for anything.
That's all right. I think you're probably pretty safe on the job search, Dan. We'll keep you around for a while.
Well, I hope so, because as smart as this group's getting, I couldn't get past the first interview process here.
Oh, too fun. All right, folks, that is all the time and a little bit more than we have for today. But we'll be back next week to bring you all the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
And be sure to subscribe to this podcast, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, so you never miss an episode. About 75% of you are watching and not subscribing. Please, please, please hit that subscribe button this time. That helps us. It helps your friends. It helps everybody. It helps the world. And please remember to share this with your friends and colleagues.
Absolutely. And for more information on the topics covered in today's show and more, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. While you're there, you should subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all the latest news for Feds delivered straight to your inbox every week.
And Katelyn, don't forget, we have those amazing live webinars, live Q&A, nothing like it anywhere else. A couple ones you won't want to miss. We have our tax webinar. Yes, there is a secondary tax deadline. That's in October, so we're not whack, okay, for doing this. And that's on October 16th from 1 to 4. And that features the incredible Katelyn Murray as host. And then the next day, the 17th, October 17th, we have our amazingly popular financial planning webinar. Really gets you a lot of good nuts and bolts there from 11 until 2. From that one, you're stuck with me. And if you like a one-on-one approach a little bit better, hit us up at Serving Those Who Serve. What's our address for that, Katelyn?
Oh, meetings at stwserve.com. So meetings at stwserve.com, and we'll be happy to get you scheduled.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but definitely drop by. If you got the time, drop by one of those webinars, learn something new. Tell us how much you like the Fed15 podcast, and we'll be glad to hear from you. So thank you so much for spending some of your precious time with us today. I am Katelyn Murray.
I'm Dan Sipe.
And we will see you for a brand new episode of the Fed15 next week.
No shutdowns.